Hi, my name is Mary Fowler, and today I will be summarizing Chapter 11 of B.F. Skinner's About Behaviorism. Chapter 11 is titled The Self and Others. So, Skinner claims that complex contingencies of reinforcement create complex repertoires. So, different contingencies create different personas in the same skin. So some examples of Dwight's personas would be the salesman, the assistant to the regional manager, the beet farmer, and the boyfriend, because all of those personas are within the same skin, Dwight. So in other words, possible events or circumstances that are reinforced create a series of performances known and ready to be performed. So when Michael Scott from The Office is the boss and tells Dwight to go on a sales call, Dwight goes on a sales call. In this case, the event or circumstance contingency would be the sales call, and the known performance or the repertoire would be the steps of going on a sales call, such as researching the client, getting in the car, driving to see the client, and delivering the sales pitch. So next we have knowing oneself. First, it's important to those who are asking, and then it becomes important to the self. Self-knowledge is comprised of a self and a self-image. It's important to distinguish between self and self-image. So, for example, a soccer player gets mad at himself for missing a penalty kick. A common question that's asked to elicit more responses is, how do you feel? This can help someone identify. Self-knowledge influences environmental factors, so what a community deems important will influence the self-knowledge. They gave examples such as introverts, extroverts, people who think about contingencies before acting, and impulsive individuals. The chapter goes on to say that any change in repertoire is a result of a change in contingency. Destructive changes may lead to identity crisis, where one may conceal conflicting selves of himself by ignoring or disguising one or more of them, or branding one a stranger. For example, you might hear yourself or coworkers sometimes say, I'm just not feeling myself today. In this example, after Dwight and Angela break up, Dwight is being observed crying, sulking, and in his work environment, he's often playing a computer game called Second Life. In a computer game, he created an alternative reality of his self-image. The chapter goes on to say that the more we know and understand about behavior of others, the more that we truly understand ourselves. The shift from introspective to environmental evidence can be tricky because we don't always observe the contingencies that we are exposed to. However, there may be certain things or experiences that we do not fully understand or possess the vocabulary for what has occurred in a particular experience or exposure. In this case, for example, Dwight didn't appear to recognize the influence of his environment or the event of his breakup, which is the contingency, on the behavior and routine at work, which would be his repertoire. So his work routines changed to playing this video game and becoming immersed within this. So knowing another person is defined as simply knowing what he does, has done, or will do, and the genetic endowment in past and present environments, which explain why he does it. Knowledge of others is limited by what one has access to. So, for example, we can't read someone's mind. We can only make observations based on behavior. The chapter also talks about why do we behave the way that we do, and two questions that can help us with that. So, what is felt or introspectively observed, and what has happened to you? So the discovery of what is being perceived to be or becoming would be the introspectively observed from what is being felt. And there are a couple techniques. So in the first technique, they talk about encounter versus conflict. And the requirements for this would be that you have to have a good interpersonal relationship and the ability to share feelings through sympathy. For example, in the episode of The Office, Jim observes Dwight's behavior and in knowing him, recognizes he is deeply upset about something, probably because he has learned from life experiences and people what upset looks like. In this case, Dwight had just gotten out of a breakup, and Jim had shared a similar breakup, so he could relate through sympathy. And expressing one's feelings. So protection of feelings, change, and contingencies may reveal different perceived feelings. Another technique would be communicating a feeling. So requirements for this one would be experience from real life with real people that arose the same feeling. So some contingency-shaped behavior cannot be expressed or compared to others. For example, we don't know what it feels like to live in a concentration camp unless we've actually experienced that. And many behaviors are reinforced by their effects on other people. So it's important to state how one feels. If not, we have to interpret it. And most of our interpretation would be through observation. The next section is managing oneself. Repertoires or behaviors manage ourselves or manage selves. So self-management is often referred to as self-fulfillment or self-actualization. Fulfillment refers to achievement or avoiding punishment, whereas actualization refers to maximizing genetic or environmental histories to break free of immediate settings. Here they list 3 management strategies. The first is self-management strategy, and using one's own history to offset adverse stimuli. For example, if you drink a lot of alcohol, there's that immediate reinforcement, ooh, I'm drunk, I'm having a good time, and then there's the deferred punishment of, oh no, I'm hungover. You may even resolve to saying, I'm never going to drink again, like I'm done with that, and you may actually end up drinking more later, probably not the same day. And then intellectual self-management strategy is arranging a situation where there's little to inference with a given behavior. For example, this is my study corner. So it's pretty neat, it's pretty clean, it's in a quiet area, I'm limiting distractions. So arranging a situation, in this case my environment, to where there's little to interfere. The ethical self-management strategy was described as an artist imagining a picture and using his own personal experience to add to it. The next section talks about managing oneself. So analyze contingencies, extract and apply rules. For example, you have proverbs, morals, the golden rule. The golden rule asks the individual to personally reflect upon whether an adverse stimuli may affect him or her before acting, which the golden rule is do unto others as you would want them to do unto you. While reinforcers are salient, self-management focuses on consequences, often associated with the actions of others. So think about how you feel about what has been done to you, but think not about how you feel about what has been done to you, but what you did in response. So managing oneself, there's the managed self and the managing self. The managed self refers to selfish behavior, which is the product of biological reinforcers to which the species has been made sensitive through natural selection, versus the set that is mainly by social environment and its selfish reasons for teaching a person to alter his behavior in such a way that becomes less averse and possibly more reinforcing to others. Managing another person is referred to as one person changing the behavior of another by changing the behavior in which he lives. In doing so, he no doubt changes the other person's feelings or introspectively observes. So they list a few examples more explicitly, like operant conditioning, describing contingencies, and so on. But the most important parts of the chapter of the self and others are that the major influences here are in genetic endowment, the current setting, and environmental history. So my question for you comes from the knowing about another person. Can you think of an instance where you were able to use the technique of encountering and confronting, and please describe the contingencies? So the example I used was Jim confronting or encountering Dwight after he was upset about the breakup. So thanks for watching. Have a good night.